Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Pan and Zoom, where we talk to filmmakers about filmmaking. Our today's guest is Warren Drummond. He's a noted storyboard artist of TV and film, and we're here just to pick his brain and just figure out what the process is, his journey, and offer some inspiration to pick away. Yes, offer some inspiration to the people out there. Thank you for coming to the show, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Right on.
Good to see you.
Awesome. And, in the whole process of movie making, there's so many steps, and a lot of people don't know about storyboarding.
Sure.
Can you describe what storyboarding is?
Storyboarding is basically taking what is inside the director's head, whatever thoughts he or she has, and putting them on paper, or now it's digital, but just getting everything out frame by frame, shot by shot. So if they're thinking wide shot, close up, panning shot, dolly, tilt, whatever, get it down so you have a foundation that you work from. So the director, the DP, that would be the director of photographer, the stunt people, the ADs, assistant directors, so everyone is on the same page as far as how they're going to shoot certain scenes.
That's awesome, because, obviously, every film or idea starts with a script, the printed word, and that's from the imagination of the writer and or director.
Right.
And then that next step is illustrations, and that's like the blueprint in order to how you're going to frame your shots and, what type of actors, what type of action is in the piece, correct?
Exactly, that's
right.
it.
And not too many people know about that process, which is interesting to me. But then when you see it, it all kind of makes sense.
Right.
How did you break into it?
Well, I come from Jamaica, Queens, and growing up, I wanted to be a comic book artist to start with. My favorite artist was John Romita Sr. I loved him. He drew Spider-Man. As I got older, I really got infected by the film bug. From the back-to-back showings of Star Wars, when I first saw that back in '77, and then the first Superman film just blew me away, just the titles by themselves. And then I read this book, The Making of Superman, which went through all the details of casting, the ideas they had for the movie, the production, and it was blew me away. So I said, I want to be in that business. But and going through college, it was still comics or film. I got into screenwriting, took that at the School of Visual Arts. But it wasn't until years later, it was really hard being a freelance artist back in New York. And then I was working at Bloomingdale's, a friend of mine named Oscar Nunez, who later became Oscar on The Office.
Oh, wow.
He was working as a salesperson, and he told me about this group called the Black Filmmaker Foundation, which he was part of. I got into that group, and that group led to my getting my first movie, Drop Squad.
Okay.
And then from there was one movie, Above the Rim, and then Die Hard with a Vengeance, doing second unit work, and then it just built up from there. But it was a slow process.
So what was the process? Did they just ask you to do the storyboards? Like, what, did you just copy what you saw in Star Wars and say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z?
Well, Drop Squad was interesting because they shot the movie in Atlanta while I was still in New York. It was a micro-budget film in comparison, low budget, so they couldn't have the
Ving
budget.
Rhames in that film?
Yes, Ving
right,
Rhames, or early Ving Rhames. A lot of people who were Eric LaSalle, Casey Lemons, who's a director now, she was in the movie. But I had to FedEx. Remember this thing called FedEx? I had to FedEx my work from Atlanta to
New York.
From New York to Atlanta, and we used to fax things over, fax with the paper rolls and all that. So much fun. Not work through phone, and then I got that led to Above the Rim, so I got to meet Tupac, and that was very interesting in itself.
What was that like? Was he just as?
He shot me. No,
he did. Wow.
No, he shot me twice. No. He loved working. He loved being around the extras. He got a lot of. He had a lot of affection for everyday people. He wasn't, I guess, that great with the powers that be, but everyday people he loved.
Well, that tracks. Him being Tupac.
He
right?
loved just everyday just people.
Man of the people.
Yeah. He was very much like that. So that was interesting. But learning more of the process of how to not get in the DP's way when they're blocking a camera shot, very important. And then that led into Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was my first big movie. So for that movie, they already had a first unit storyboard artist, meaning the storyboard artist that worked with the director, John McTiernan. So I worked with the stunt coordinator, Terry Lander, who was also the second unit director.
Were there any opportunities to shadow that first storyboard artist and say, hey, this is...
No, because that artist was not more experienced. He got the job. So his job was work with John McTiernan for scenes with Sam and Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, and for scenes that they would do. Mine was for scenes that would be shot by the second unit director, Terry Leonard. So the big car chase in that movie, there was a big car chase on the Sawtell Parkway that had to be storyboarded. There was a big Central Park.
Well, they had to drive through Central Park, right, to find the bomb.
So that was Terry and myself going through Central Park, and Terry telling me the car's going to come this way. It's going to do an S turn in the grass. It's going to go this way. We're going to pan, and it's going to go over the wall. And Terry was great to work with.
Now, do filmmakers technically bring storyboards on set and just use it like this is our guide?
Yes.
In conjunction with the shot list, of course.
Spielberg has had. I haven't worked with him directly, but I have certainly seen he'll have his storyboards, and at least he used to. Other people will have it and they'll just check off the shots they have to make. Other people they'll have it in their notebook and just go through it that way. And other people, they just will use it to plan things out, and then they'll work organically on the set. So people work differently.
Wow. So after Above the Rim, did you eventually have to come to Los Angeles?
That happened after Shaft.
Oh, wow.
So Shaft was a movie, my first movie with the late, great John Singleton. And that was, we started working that in 97. It didn't start shooting till 99 because John's idea for the movie was a father-son film, which was totally different from the movie that eventually turned out. So he had written a different script, so we had to go through that one. And then the studio didn't approve it. 2 years later, we're shooting back in New York.
Wow, that's interesting. How key are relationships into moving your career forward?
Very key. Just there are certain friendships. Like John and I were very close friends, and there are people that you really like that you only see from film to film, but you're not hanging out together.
Right.
It depends. But they're all fine. They're all good. The main thing is be professional, give the director what they need. Because you could be the nicest person in the world and fail, and the director's not getting what they need. And sometimes it's just there's a chemistry thing where you just don't, you're doing your best, they're doing their best, but you're not quite connecting. So you have to just get that connection. John and I had it. Other people that I work with now on the Hollywood movies, David Gordon Green is someone that I've worked with on a bunch of movies. We're great together. Denzel Washington, I've done 3 movies with him.
Wow.
He's fantastic. It just depends. Listen. The main thing is listen to what they need and figure it out.
So like the combination of the talent which you fostered mixed with the relationships, that's kind of like the key in order to move things forward.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we get a chance that we could take a look at some of your storyboards and kind of go through that. Yeah.
That'd be great.
So you look on the screen here. I'll bring those up there. And this is for
Ad Astra.
Ad Astra, the Brad Pitt space movie, correct?
Yes. So that movie, I did not work with James Gray, the director, at first. I worked with the second unit director, Bradley, and Dan Bradley. And I got to work with him. And then later on, a year and a half after we did this scene, because we did this scene, I got called back. They had to do some extra photography. So I got to work with James Gray directly, the director, in the editing, and Brad Pitt happened to be in the edit room.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm right next to, the prettiest guy on the planet, who's also a very nice guy, very relaxed.
Being the prettiest and the nicest guy on the planet, does that happen?
It's just, Brad and myself, but beyond that, he's a filmmaker. He's a really, people don't know that Brad, beyond all the actor stuff, he is a filmmaker. So he had very strong opinions on what changes they had to make when they did the additional photography for the movie.
So does this inform basically where they're going to shoot?
Yes.
Like when they look for locations or whatever?
Since it was set on the moon, not shot on the moon.
No.
That's a big, people thought, did they shoot? No.
Shut the front door.
No.
What do you mean?
It was not shot on the moon. There's a whole issue with locations and air and, oxygen. So
was it at the place where they shot the fake moon landing? No, I'm just kidding. But
it actually was. But anyway, so you have a combination of the director shooting things. So the director, James Gray, would shoot with the actors. But a lot of the action, this is a big action sequence in the movie. So the second unit director, Dan Bradley, he shot a lot of that. So it's a combination of what the director and the second unit director / stunt coordinator put together.
Awesome. Let's look at another one, please. Okay, this is
Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Rupert Wyatt was the director for that movie.
And are these numbers basically the scene numbers that you're?
That was the shot. These would be the shots. So shot number 9, shot 10, and 11. Okay. Then we jump further to 53 and 53A. Like an A would be a tighter version of it. So on a shot and then you push in, that would be an A. Or an A would be characters go from here to there, it's an A. Or you pan, that's what the A's stand for.
And the arrow is where basically the movement's supposed to come from.
Yes, that would be the camera work, yes.
Not to jump around, but...
Jump around.
Where did the drawing influences come from? Like when you were in school, or just natural talent, or just...
Well, talent does help, but you learn whether you go
technique and all that stuff.
Technique, a lot of, during college, you learn how to improve on anatomy, perspective, and then composition. I learned kind of like in my comic book classes there.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I remember, I'm not as great a drawer as you, but I remember tracing comic books and stuff like that.
We all did that, you know, but you learn the language of film. That's the main thing. Whatever background you come from, whether you have a comic book background or advertising or fine art, you have to learn what is the language of film. What is
the fundamentals, basically. Yeah.
Close-ups, composition, the John Ford rule of you go high or you go low. Don't go in the middle. That's not exciting.
Right. I remember that bit in The Fablemans. Who's seen that, where he gave the speech to the young Spielberg, and if you're too high, you go too low. Yeah.
That's John Ford.
So it's glad to see that other people are following those rules.
Oh yeah.
This is from
A Wrinkle in Time, directed by Ava DuVernay.
Awesome.
So that's an effects scene. So that was a big scene of them on a fantasy animal. So you'd have a lot of green screen there, but even when you have to plan for effects, you want to have exciting, dynamic camera angles and how they might film it.
Right. You ever work with a director that doesn't storyboard?
No, because they would not be storyboarding.
Gotcha. So they just think, no, we're just going to do the shot list and shoot from the hip?
Yeah, and not hire me at all. No, what you can happen is I've had directors that it's their first time storyboarding. Denzel was his first time. Channing Tatum on Dog was another. Michael B. on Creed 3 early on. And you work with them because they're not used to explaining what's in here and what they want to see. But once they get further into it, then it's all good.
Yes, because a lot of first timers, it's their first time being able to alliterate what's here down to here. So this is part of the process. And,
yes.
And it's great that you kind of help foster them achieving their vision.
Yes, because also, and everyone does not shot list. John Singleton used to shotlist everything. Ron Howard or Denzel, they'll meet with you first. They'll let you go through a first pass. And then afterwards, they'll have notes on what they liked or what they needed to change for the scene. And some people are they're in the middle.
Gotcha.
You know?
So it varies from creative to creative,
Yes,
basically. Yeah.
and this is, and that's for a movie Faster, directed by George Tillman, a very good guy as well. So that was a big fight scene with Dwayne in a bar using an ice pick, and that's actually where I met my future kung fu instructor.
Oh, wow.
Who was also working on the film. Yes.
Was he a stuntman?
He had done stunts, but he and his brother Sifu Earl White and Sifu Pierre Fosa helped choreograph it.
Oh, wow.
So the fight scene, so I got to meet them, and later on I was a student.
Okay, so you practiced martial arts?
Yes, I've been in martial arts since I was a teenager, and I've kind of bounced around. I've had karate when I started off, that I had some kung fu assistants back in New York, but being in Los Angeles, I've studied with Sifu Earl, and then his main assistant instructor, Sifu Paula Young. So I trained with both of them the last 13 years.
Oh, wow.
12, 13 years, yeah.
So you're like a black belt.
Yes, I am. But there's always better people out there. My main thing, martial arts is not about fancy kicks or what you can do. A lot of it is what you can do in making yourself better and pushing your boundaries, but also knowing that you can take care of yourself. But it's not about fighting. Anyone, any fool in the street can fight. It's about self-knowledge.
Awesome.
That's martial arts.
I mean, it's a wonderful outlet, and there's a term that I like to use, everything. Like how you work on film, where you got to be flexible and pivotal to work from different people. It kind of honors what you do as a creative in Kung Fu, because there's no set style. You got to be
adaptable.
Adaptable.
That's Bruce Lee, man.
Yeah, flow like water.
And right. Bruce, my favorite quote is, absorb what is useful, discard what is not, add what is essentially your own. And that goes for art. I've learned techniques from different artists that I've used, homages or stolen. I've had things that I can't do, and then there's things that I add for my own process.
Wow, that is awesome. So I think we're going to field some questions from our wonderful studio audience here. Who do we got?
How long have you been doing this, and how long does it take to storyboard one film?
Well, I have been in this business for, this is year number 30. So I started when I was 5 years old. And, no, sorry. Anyway, a movie, it depends on how long it takes. I've been on movies for 2 days. I've been on a movie for 6 months. So it depends. I have friends that have been on a movie for a year and a half. If it's a big effects movie, they're going to be on there. If it's a little conversational movie, it may only be a scene that they need, and then you're gone and you find the next job.
Like being an actor, it's very, I guess, the living is very feast or famine.
Yes.
Yes. How often do jobs kind of come back to back, or are there periods of where you're not working?
There are peaks and valleys, man.
Yeah.
It is
do
like,
you have side hustles besides the martial arts?
international cat burgling is
Okay, that's
is-
good.
That's why I say fully flexible.
That subsidizes everything.
Yeah, but you gotta get the whole cat suit and then the whole
Right.
cut through the glass.
I used to have mine taken in because I don't want to talk about it. Okay.
So what has been the biggest reward that you've gotten back from throughout your career in storyboarding?
Reward. Wow, that's a very good question. That's going to make me rack my brains. It's great seeing your work and then seeing a movie and go, I was part of that. When A Beautiful Mind won Best Picture, I was like, I worked in that movie, which I helped. A friend of mine got me on it, the other board artist, and it was great to have something and work with Ron Howard And that's it, man. When you see a scene and go, I came up with that, those shots from my head, or it's just teamwork with you and the director. But it is a big circus that you're part of for a little while, and it's great when the show goes up and you get to see the act and you go, okay, I was part of that. Also nice being paid. That's a very, very nice thing, because can't work for free.
No, you can't, unfortunately. As we're having this conversation, you're dropping some really awesome names of people that you work with, and you know, it's great that you've been able to subsist over 30 years doing this. Mm-hmm. For someone starting out fresh, you know, they have a love of drawing and films. What would your advice be to them to get started?
Whew. Well, if they're artists, I'd say, again, learn the language of film. There's a great book called Shot by Stephen Katz. Mm-hmm. I always point people toward that book because it's a book for directors. When you're a board artist, you have to learn to think like a director. Watch movies, learn how directors compose. What is the composition? What is the storytelling? How do they go from one shot to the next? And then I guess try to find work storyboarding student movies, short films, because in the business you have to be part of the union. So that's a whole process.
What is that union?
It's the Art Directors Guild.
Is that IATSE or is it?
Yes, it's a guild. Yes, you have that here back in New York. Mm-hmm. There's another union back there, so I'm part of both of those. And and then you have to how do you get in? How do you get that first job? Because you can't work on a studio movie without being in the union. So you might have to get work doing commercials first.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's how I got in.
Okay. And then do you have to someone vouch for you? You have to pay dues and all that stuff?
Yeah. So you get someone that gets you on, but then you have to do 30 days, and it's a whole mind-racking process. But once you finally get in, thank you God you're in the union.
Awesome.
Then you got to pay some dues.
Yeah. Speaking of books,
yes.
You've written a book. You want to talk about that?
Yes, I have. It's a book on my career as a board artist in this beautiful business. And my wife, the lovely Betty K. Bynum, said, "You're going to do a book." I was like, "Okay, baby." And that's how it works. She says something, I go, "Okay, baby." And it was the process of, it's not a how-to book. It's a book on my experiences working with John Singleton and Ron Howard and Denzel and other people, and how to find a job, my early times of not working, and when you do have a job, what is the day-to-day process of being in the industry. And the hard part also of just doing this book, getting permission from studios. That's some of these have taken years. It's a hard thing.
So basically this whole interview is in the book.
Yes, that's going to be the next chapter that I'm going to put in there.
We could have just read from the book. And
it's the Sadie,
like,
it's the Satie chapter.
No, we don't have to go that far.
I'm saying.
No. How about, when is the book coming out?
It will be out by end of May, early June.
Okay.
And the lovely Ron Howard was nice enough to do with the forward
That's
for
amazing.
the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Amazon,
dedicated,
Barnes & Nobles?
yes,
that type of
it will
thing?
be on Amazon. It will be on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I'll do some signings in LA. If you want to learn up-to-date information, that people can follow me on Instagram.
Okay.
And I will be putting up posting of when we're getting closer to publication and when we'll do the pre-orders.
Okay. So Instagram, the only place they can find? Do you have a website too, or?
The website for right now is Instagram. I'm going to have a big website, but for right now, the easiest way is to find me on Instagram.
Okay, and is it just Warren Drummond, at Warren Drummond?
You'll see me in my early years doing a flying kung fu kick. That will be me.
Interesting. Okay.
And by the way, that's and also a big thing for my wife is also the publisher, because she's experienced. She's done that the last
But did you
decade.
self-publish the book?
Well, actually, because she had published several children's books, like
Oh, wow,
I'm a
okay.
Pretty Little Black Girl. I'm a
Did you do the illustrations for that?
No, there was some other artists. 'Cause I do things that blow up, and people getting punched. Children's book and
I mean,
frolicking.
you could have put that in the children's book. I think it would have been completely understandable.
You know, Kemba doing a sidekick is not really great for a children's book.
I would argue with that. You know, I mean,
It'd be great if you're a child with issues, but I'd say no. So that she had other artists. One of them is
all children have issues. Come on.
one of them being a former mentee of mine, Brian McGee, and he did a great job on the Brilliant Little Black Boy book. And there you go.
All right, Warren, thank you so
Thank you.
much for gracing us with your expertise
Thank
and knowledge.
You're
and
welcome, man.
This has been another fun episode of Pan and Zoom. Join us next time. We never know who we're going to bring out, but it is going to be someone from the film industry that's going to give us some more knowledge and magic about what it takes to make films and TV and what you can do to be a part of it. Thank you and good night.